Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine and today I will be presenting on cryptocurrency. I want to start by explaining exactly what cryptocurrency is. So it can be described as a digital or virtual currency that uses cryptography. Cryptocurrency was built on advanced mathematical and computer engineering principles that make it impossible to break, duplicate, or counterfeit the currency. Many modern cryptocurrencies are decentralized systems based on blockchain technology and are free from governmental oversight. Next, I want to get into the history of cryptocurrency. So many attribute the start of cryptocurrency with the launch of Bitcoins. However, cryptocurrency's technical foundations began in the 1980s when David Chaum invented a binding algorithm. The algorithm essentially allowed for secure and unauditable information exchanges between two parties. David also started DigiCash in 1989, which was a centralized operation that had a monopoly on the supply control. Initially, DigiCash was supposed to deal directly with individuals. However, the Netherlands banks cited it as being foul and they were only able to deal with licensed banks. One of the most notable early forms of cryptocurrency is e-gold. So e-gold allowed users to sell their old gold items in exchange for e-gold. Users could then trade their units with each other, cash out for physical gold, or exchange for US dollars. By the 2000s, a majority of the transactions using e-gold were from illegal activity, and due to increasing legal pressure, they ceased to exist by 2009. Also in 2009, you have the launch of Bitcoin. So Bitcoin was initially intended to be a peer-to-peer electronic cash system instead of a cryptocurrency. Bitcoin revolutionized cryptocurrency by utilizing a decentralized system that used blockchain technology that earlier cryptocurrencies did not use. On this slide, you get a glimpse of some of the cryptocurrencies there are. Currently, there are over 2,000 in existence with a combined value of over 22 billion. So on the image on the right, you kind of get a glimpse of the top 10 cryptocurrencies that there are. So you have those like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Tron. I do want to focus specifically on a couple different cryptocurrencies. So the first one that I want to go in depth with is Ethereum. So Ethereum itself is much more of an exchange platform, but they do have a currency that is Ether. So Ethereum, just like Bitcoin, uses blockchain technology. However, their blockchain is able to process complex contracts and programs so they can be utilized for things like crowdsourcing. The next I want to go into is Ripple. So Ripple itself is not necessarily considered to be a cryptocurrency, but more of a network of IOU. So this is more favored by banks rather than individual users. So the currency that it does utilize is not used for storing or exchanging. It's rather to protect the network against spam. The last one that I want to talk about is Monero. So Monero itself has enhanced the security feature that previous cryptocurrencies have. So it's one of the first that utilizes a kryptonite algorithm, which uses ring signatures to cut through the trail of transactions. So now I want to walk through exactly how a transaction is processed. So when a transaction is received, it's broadcasted out to the entire network. So the transaction itself won't be completed until it has been validated and added to the blockchain. So during the time that the transaction is being validated, the funds are not able to are not available to either party to avoid duplication. So while the transaction is being validated, a hash will be created to connect the transaction to the previous block in the chain. So once the block has been created, the transaction will be completed and can be viewed by all users. So on this slide, I want to go a little bit more in depth as far as what happens during that verification period, specifically how the blockchain is created. So the blockchain itself is an online ledger that records and stores every transaction ever made using the currency in chronological order. So a copy of the chain is stored in every node of the cryptocurrency software network, so it can be viewed by all users. So when a transaction is sent to miners, they compete to turn the latest transaction into a block. So the miners are competing to find a number that, when encrypted alongside the transaction and the most recent block in the chain, will create a hash. A hash is essentially a random sequence of numbers and letters that typically start with a 0. So the time that it takes to have a block created can vary depending on the cryptocurrency miners. So looking at Bitcoin, it typically has a new block created every 10 minutes. So the number that the miners are competing to find can be very difficult, but once a solution has been reached, it can easily be verified by other miners. When the miner solves the problem, they are rewarded with coins and the block is added to the chain. So next, I want to go over some of the advantage of using cryptocurrency. So one of the main advantages is that they're uncontrolled supply. So in the source code, it specifies how many units can ever be in existence. It's also self-policing. So the miners within the system act as a built-in quality control that ensuring that all transactions are always valid and up to date. There's also privacy protection, so users are always able to remain anonymous. And with newer cryptocurrencies, they've added in more advanced features that make it harder to identify users and track the transaction flow. Cryptocurrency transactions are also secure, so the funds are always locked in a public key, and only the owner of the private key can send cryptocurrency. Another advantage is that transactions are cheaper and have less barriers. So with cryptocurrency, domestic and international transactions are treated as one and the same. So this eliminates the need to have mandatory fees, and the fees that do exist are typically less than 1% of the transaction value. Whereas if you're looking at traditional banks or credit cards, their fees are going to be between 1.5% to 3%. It also makes it harder for governments to extract money. So they aren't able to freeze or reverse transactions like they would if you were using a bank. Next, I want to discuss some of the disadvantage of cryptocurrency. So there is always the potential for financial losses. So one of the easiest ways that this can happen is if a user were to lose their private key, they wouldn't be able to make any transactions, and they also wouldn't be able to access any of the funds that they have in their wallet. Another way that a loss can happen is if their information is stored on a cloud. If anything were ever to happen to the server that it's stored on, whether it's damaged or disconnected, they could lose the funds that way. The last way that this can happen is if data is not properly protected. There is also a hack. One thing that comes to mind um, is the issue with DAO, which was used for outsourcing venture funds for on Ethereum's platform, was hacked within weeks due to hackers finding a loophole in their code, which allowed them to take money before the transaction could be recorded, causing a loss of $250 million that the fund had. The next disadvantage is that there is high price volatility and manipulation. So prices can vary greatly. Even looking at Bitcoin in 2017, their price had doubled quite drastically multiple times throughout the year, but it had more than halved in 2018. Another disadvantage is that many of the currencies can't be exchanged for a fiat currency. Only more of the popular currencies like Bitcoin can be exchanged for fiat currencies. Another drawback of cryptocurrency is that there are no chargeback or refunds. So if you were to send money and never received a product, you wouldn't get that back. But a lot of the newer currencies are trying to combat this issue by offering some sort of refund. Another disadvantage is that there are adverse environmental impacts due to mining. So the mining farms that are all over the world, they use a lot of energy. The farms combined, they are said to use as much energy as a small developed country. The last disadvantage is that there is a lack of regulation. So it makes it easier for illegal activity to take place, such as money laundering and tax evasion. So last, we're going to go into our discussion questions. So the three that I have are, do you have any experience using cryptocurrencies? If so, for what purpose and purpose did you or do you use it for? And do you think that cryptocurrencies will ever become more commercialized if banks see how successful that it can be? And mining cryptocurrency poses a serious environmental threat as the farm uses much energy as small developed countries. What short to medium term solution would you recommend?